and the peace deal worked. And then people said, well, okay, we're condemning the Egyptians to live under Mubarak and military rule, et cetera. But that's Egypt's business. That's not our business. So let the Palestinians handle their own business. And Piers, you said there's never been a plan here. No, there's always been a plan. They just didn't want to say it in public because they're pretending that this was about self-defense. October 7th happened 15 months ago. I mean, they've destroyed almost every building in Gaza. The plan is obvious, and they're now finally announcing it, which is that Israel's going to take it. That's why they never had realistic ceasefire proposals. That's why they never drove towards peace. That's why they never want the two-state solution, because they want one state, Israel, from the river to the sea. And Netanyahu has literally said, from the river to the sea, we're going to have all of it. So we're all pretending that Israel doesn't want to take this land when that's been their intent all along. And why are we pretending that? Because AIPAC was the #1 donor in politics in this election cycle. Donald Trump's gotten $337 million, but Biden got $11 million from AIPAC. Kamala Harris got $5 million from Israeli lobby in this campaign. So Washington, D.C. is occupied territory. That is why we're not getting to the obvious America first answer, which would also make the Palestinians happy and get peace for Israel and get a safe Jewish haven, which we all want for Israel, and would stop this madness. But we've got to actually go towards the actual practical solution, which is peace and a two-state solution. And the people blocking that are Netanyahu and his far-right, ridiculous government in Israel. And Dave is right. You put pressure on the people blocking the deal, which is Netanyahu and Israel. The people in Gaza have almost no power at all. The people with nearly infinite power.
You know what, maybe my guess is, my guess is
that's the first time we've started with Mortal Kombat finish him on After Show Carnage. That was Cenk Uygur, and when Cenk is right, Cenk is right. We're back with Piers Morgan, and the best show on the internet right now, in my opinion, Piers Morgan Uncensored. That isn't not an endorsement of Piers Morgan, who is basically his ideology is basically left, but he's trying to warm up to the right. But he's got a class of cultures. This show is Cenk Uygur, the homie Comic Dave Smith. I wish Comic Dave Smith would get out of this Middle East discussion, but because he's great at it. But I've heard him debate so many times on it. But he's excellent. I mean, he could debate this stuff in his sleep. And then you see Abatya Angar Sargon there, and then Dean Cain, Superman. He must be tired of that, but he was the excellent Superman back in the day on the TV show. And he's lost a little bit of weight. Okay, looking more a little bit like a Clark Kent there. Let's get back to Piers Morgan Uncensored and see what they're going to say here, breaking it down. Dave Smith's going to get in here. You don't want to miss that.
That the Arab nations will say, right, we will let America rebuild Gaza. The Palestinian people will not be all forced out. The ones who want to stay will be able to stay. But it has to be as part of a two-state solution pathway that is specifically laid out and has a timeline. I suspect that may be how this ends up. Anyway, we'll see. I want to just change to another war briefly. And let me start with you, Dean, on this one. This is Ukraine. Donald Trump has revealed he's had a very productive call with Vladimir Putin. He said, we talked about the strength of our respective nations and the great benefit we'll someday work together. But first, we want to stop the millions of deaths taking place in the war with Russia and Ukraine. President Putin even used my strong campaign motto of common sense. We both believe in it strongly, adding they've agreed to start negotiations immediately and that he will notify Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky of the conversation. And that apparently is going to happen imminently. So there's movement there. I interviewed President Zelensky last week, and it was clear that he also is prepared to sit around a negotiating table and try and resolve this. But what is your reaction to Donald Trump and his announcement about talking to Putin?
He should talk to both sides. I'm all for that, 100%. But I say that with President Trump's leadership, that war in Ukraine will be over for the end of this calendar year. And I think that's what everybody wants, since what President Trump has said himself. It's like, I want to stop the killing. I want to stop people from dying. And that war, I believe, wholeheartedly will be done by the end of this year. Whatever the concessions are, I don't know, but it's going to be done, and people will stop dying, and that'll be a conflict that we've needed to end. There's so many people who've been killed there, and I'll be celebrating when it is over, and it will be over by the end of this year.
Dave Smith, my concern with this is that the only way I can conceivably see this getting resolved anytime soon is that Vladimir Putin gets to keep what he's taken, as he did with Crimea. I just don't see that the Ukrainians have enough strength or enough resolve from people like the United States now to continue the battle. And so we're left with where we are on geographic lines, which means Putin really, he wins, doesn't he? He takes what he's taken again.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Look, I certainly get your point, and I think that we are there are constraints to reality. And look, I mean, even like me and Cenk, as we've been talking about this situation in Israel, I mean, both of us would probably agree that it certainly wasn't legitimate the way the state of Israel was formed to begin with, and there was a whole lot of ethnic cleansing that went on then. But neither of us are arguing. We're saying the Palestinians should have their land in Gaza and the West Bank. Neither of us are saying like, you got to, you know what I mean? Like, because at a certain point in time, you just have to deal with the reality of the situation. Right. Where people living there is no practical way to force Vladimir Putin out of the areas that he's taken, short of the U.S. military rolling in and having a direct confrontation with Russia. And I just don't think that any of us are willing to do that so that the Donbass region is ruled by Kiev rather than Moscow.
I'm about, I don't even know, 8,000 miles away. Why the hell do I care about the Donbass region? Can somebody explain that to me? They're talking about South Africa and the ones that are yelling, "Unlive the Boers." I don't care. They're 10,000 miles away from me. They're talking about the Middle East and, who did this with babies and who did that? Who paratrooped in Birkenstocks and did this? And then who blew up these buildings and all this other stuff? And I do not care. Just don't care. Get me out of it. Remove me from the situation. Y'all can go both and live each other. As long as you keep me and my money and my family and my country out of it, I think we'll be good. Let's get back to the clip.
That's just not, I'm sorry, that's not worth the cost of a total war between America and Russia. I hope Dean is right. I think this is an incredible improvement from the previous administration and their rhetoric and their strategy there. And I give a lot of credit to Pete Hegseth, who also, just recently said some great things on this issue, that NATO won't be involved. Look, I know that me and you don't agree on this, Piers, but I'm with Scott Horton and John Mearsheimer on this. I think that U.S. foreign policy and particularly NATO enlargement, color-coded revolutions, I think we did a lot to provoke this conflict. And I think that much like Israel in the Middle East, look, America's got all the chips here, really, when it comes down to it. We can get Vladimir Putin to do much of what we would like him to do. I would like to see Trump follow through on one of his previous ideas I think the only chance of actually getting all that Ukrainian territory, short of Crimea, you're not getting Crimea, but the rest of the territory, I think you could work out a deal where the U.S. pulls out of NATO. Donald Trump said it before. Why on earth are we subsidizing the defense of rich European countries? Because we worked out this agreement when they were in ashes after World War II to prevent against the Soviet Union. Well, they're not in ashes anymore. The Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. And there's no reason why America needs to subsidize the defense of other rich countries. So, look, I think this is a huge improvement. There probably is room for improvement even from there. And I don't know, I'm not quite as confident as Dean, but I really do hope that this war comes to an end and the killing.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reason we disagree is I wouldn't trust Putin as far as I could throw him. And I think he deeply regrets that the Soviet Union ever got broken up, and he would love to get it all restored. He sees himself as a modern day czar, is my opinion.
But Piers, he couldn't even take Kiev. So what do you think? He's rolling on Poland?
Sure, but he'll end up with
saying I trust him.
Okay, but he'll end up with a third of Ukraine to go with Crimea, right? And I just wouldn't trust him. I think that he will try and come again for more of Ukraine. And we'll see. History will prove one of us right about this. I just don't trust him and think he is a ruthless Russian dictator. And I think he's used the excuse of NATO encroachment, when in fact the reason NATO had to be encroached was precisely because of what he's done in Ukraine. So it depends who you really want to believe most here. Batsy, let me bring you in. I mean, it seems to me, whatever people think of this, Donald Trump, once again, as he's shown since he became president again, he steamed in here, utterly determined to get this resolved very quickly. And he is indisputably a man of peace. He does not believe in war. He thinks war is bad business. It's bad for dead bodies and bad for money that gets wasted. I mean, It's an unusual thing with an American president. You know, sitting here in London right now, I'm like, this is good to have an American president who doesn't like war. Hallelujah.
Yeah, I don't want to give, this is the end of the clip here. I do appreciate Trump, and I think he's in a better direction than we have in the past. He came in and he is a boss. You can't do anything without a boss in charge. And he's accomplished, I think, in the first month, we're not even in the first month, 10 times as much as Joe Biden had in the 4 years he was in office. So I call balls and strikes on this channel. You tell me if you see something different. Is that out of line to say? Do I need to break it down for you that Donald Trump has accomplished? I'm not saying whether these things are good or bad. I'm just talking about the things, and the speed and the efficiency are order. Tens are an order of magnitude. You will hear Elon Musk say that a lot because he's an engineer. If you multiply something by 10, that's an order of magnitude. Go from 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, and so on. He's an order of magnitude, Donald Trump, more efficient, more focused, more on point than the last presidency. So what that means is, in every day, Donald Trump can do 10 more things than Joe Biden did. So I will call that out and say that's amazing. He got Elon Musk in the right position to really be efficient, really treating the government like a company, which we are missing. I will give him credit for that process. I did not predict that or expect that. But what I will not do is give somebody credit where credit's not due. He's so much against war that why are we bombing Somalia? What's happening there? If we're so much against war, why have we already, within the first 30 days, Donald Trump has already decided to drop bombs in Somalia? He's anti-war. He lit up Somalia like a Christmas tree. Donald Trump ordered precision military airstrikes in Somalia, directly targeting senior ISIS operatives in a move that just completely undermines this whole anti-war thing. So I'm not saying Trump is terrible. I'm just saying he's not what we purported him to be. We are hearing reports that there might be strikes against Iran. We'll see. I think he wants to do peace through strength, and we'll have to kind of take a look at it. Two things can be true. Trump can be a great man, a great American patriot and hero, especially from 2016. And he also can be a tool and a puppet of the tiny hats. Both things can be true.
The next clip is ready below. Welcome to After Show Carnage.